Hey everybody, this is Andrew at Windward, and I'm just making a quick video to show the work that I've been doing down in what I call the main pasture. I've been digging this swale here. As you can see, it's got some water backed up in it. It's a soakage swale, it's on contour. You can see there's some flagging, and looking out into the pasture rises over this hill here and is just a big flat. There's gently sloping open area. It's not really forested, and it extends well beyond where we can see past these trees. It's about 10 acres, and we've charted. You can sort of see, like right there, there's flagging, and it runs across all the way to where it meets one of our old entrance roads. Runs right on contour, and that runs more or less right in the middle of this property, or this little bit of land. And we're developing it as a sort of an animal forage system, and it'll be a tree-based system around the swales, with the swales also providing car access as we move into more open areas. We're gonna have a dozer come in and dig a really big swale that a car can actually drive in, or a tractor or something like that. And what I've been doing now is I've been hand digging this swale here in order to divert water from a seasonal creek. And you can see the water's just nice and passively sitting in this swale. Get a little bit of a view of other things that I've been doing. As I've been digging, I've been encountering a lot of rocks. I've put them up here, a lot of them up here at least, to sort of hold down this soil and provide mulch, as well as a place to walk. There's some big stones that I've lodged into the hillside so that I can step up. I've also cut some, you can see here and here, cut some steps so that I can get up. This is our main access road here. And so it's a pretty steep hill here. You can see over there, there's a culvert that's coming out right there. And the creek runs down, but I've made just a little check dam out of rocks right here, which is backing the water up a little bit, slowing it down, dropping sediment out, and it's helping the water to divert this way. And I've dug this swale out here, and with the associated mound on the downhill side, and it's working pretty well. There's a couple areas where it's leaking. I was down here in the middle of winter, and the soil was still very frozen, and so I was digging out, and I would have large pieces of frozen dirt, and so it didn't quite get compacted enough to hold water. So right down there you can sort of see there's water that's kind of seeping out of the bottom there. It's pretty rocky, and that's where I was putting frozen dirt. So I'm gonna have to come in and patch that up. But some of the goals for this particular section of swale are, one, we've been working with bamboo, particularly it's called Phylostachys nigra, black bamboo. I have some right here. I took some cuttings from a nice gentleman in Portland who had it growing in his yard. This is like a zone 6 bamboo. It should stay pretty green and lush through the winter. It's hardy to 0 degrees. And you can see here, as I've propagated some of the bamboo by taking cuttings and about 18 inches long and putting rooting hormone on the nodes and cutting off most of the leaves, just leaving some. And it's sitting here in this, what I dug out was a very deep trench, probably about 3 to 4 feet deep. And I did a bit of hugelkultur in there. I put a lot of straw and I got it nice and wet. And then I put some nice good topsoil down. And I buried a couple inches of topsoil. And then I buried the cuttings in there horizontally, and got the green material to come out through it, and mulched it with about 3 or 4 inches of straw mulch. And I also buttressed the terrace that I made with these stones. And you can see, I'll try to walk over here. I did some more propagating here, more bamboo sticking out. So that's also in a pretty deep hugelkultur trench. I did some more over there, some more over there. This particular bamboo that I'm working with, not only will it be theoretically a good forage for animals, a cut forage even in the wintertime. You can cut the canes and feed the green material to animals, but it also will help hold these banks, because this is a really steep slope here coming down, and it's not really vegetated now. There's just some mullein, some grass, but not a whole lot. So the hope is that this will fill out and help stabilize this hillside. Phylostachys nigra is also a clumping bamboo, so it's not going to run all over the place. It's not going to be of an indefinite size. It will be about 12 feet or so in radius. It'll get about 25 to 40 feet tall depending on the conditions. It'll probably be on the shorter side here because it's a little harsher, a little colder and drier. I've also, you can see there's all this like pine material that's on this hillside, and basically I've been taking, I'll show you, like this pine tree here, which is now in the mound of the swale. I limbed it up, and I limbed up a lot of these trees here to about head height or half the height of the tree, and I'm using that material over here as a big thick layer of mulch. So I'll try to step back here. You can see there's just a lot of material, and that will help just shelter the soil, keep it a little bit warmer, a little bit moister, and it's really rough, but that's perfectly fine for our purposes. No one's really going to be walking here, so it can be as rough as we want it to be. Also, another part of this system that I'm going to be putting into place is on the mound here. I'm going to be ramming in maybe 1 to 2 inch pieces of bamboo, and I'm going to be lodging them in the soil as deep as I can get it so that they can propagate and start growing, start rooting themselves, making use of all of this good water because they like it nice and wet. And that bamboo will be useful as a craft item for weaving and basketry and hurdles and fencing and all of that stuff. And also it can be a cut forage for animals, particularly for goats, but goats, sheep, cows, pigs, they'll all eat at least a little bit of it. It will also help just stabilize this whole thing, because willow is a good riparian buffer plant, and part of the idea is that this will become so thick and rampant that animals won't be able to come in and disturb the soil and kick it down into the creek and cause erosion and muddy the waters and whatnot. The bamboo will help do that as well, but it's going to be more on this outer hillside. It should also, what I'm facing now is north, so as the bamboo comes up here, it will provide a bit more of a sun trap in this whole area, because it'll be nice and tall, and it'll help capture the sun and create more of a microclimate. When I was down here at about the winter solstice, I was noticing that when the sun always hit this hillside all day, even when it was going down, past these trees here, the sun was coming this way, and even in the lowest sun part of the year, this whole area still got sun. So that'll be really interesting to see how, if we can capture some more of that heat and that solar radiation, see how well the plants do in this little microclimate that we're creating. You can see here I put some rocks down into the swale here. I'm stepping down onto it, and that will help me basically be able to get across and move around in this territory when it's all soaking wet. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys this swale, and you guys can get a sense of how this will help water to infiltrate more over this entire landscape, and will be the basis for both an access track and a tree planting system. I'm walking now along where the swale will go. Everywhere you see these little flags, like right there, moving along out towards the open area of the pasture. You can see along here there's all these flags, and this is all made with a water level, pretty simple device that we use to find the contour. Okay. because, you know, water always sits level if it doesn't have anywhere to go. And so the idea is that the swale will come sort of on the downhill side here, and it will be nice and wide, about maybe 8 to 10 feet wide, with a mound on the downhill side. And then what we'll be planting this year, loads and loads of pioneering trees that will be good for animals and good to get the system established. So I've already started that propagation, and I'm working with a couple of different plants. One is honey locusts, which are a really tough, drought-tolerant tree that produces sugary pods, which are great for animals, and they store really well. So you can see now we're moving into a much wider area. And where we just came from is way down there where the creek is running. So we're going to be able to divert that water all the way and sort of wet up this hillside, which gets pretty dry in the summer, because it's just, you can see it's just open. There's no cover. We already have some pasture growing here. It's mostly like Idaho fescue and what I think is called squirrel tail, perennial grass. Right, so the trees that I'll be working with are black and honey locusts. Black locusts are a nitrogen fixing tree that produces pods that are sort of good for chickens, but ruminants and grazers can still eat it as well. I'm working with honey locusts, which have those sugary pods. Both of those trees also produce very rot resistant wood. So you can see this is another flag. So we're moving across the hillside here. We have this big trench here, which is going to be part of a non-potable water system for irrigation and animals and things like that. And so we're going to lay pipes here and have a solar pump, which will be drawing water from way down at a dug well that's sort of over there, down in the creek. So that will also provide some supplemental water to this system once we get that established. But yeah, those two trees, black and honey locust, have very rot resistant wood, and hopefully they will provide fence posts to keep this system established over the long term, as well as providing those really rot resistant poles for other construction projects. And I plan to plant this swale really dense at first and see which individual plants do well here, and then start thinning them out as the plants grow. And the hope is to manage the black locust in a coppice system so that we're producing a lot of poles as opposed to just one main trunk. We'll also be planting sea buckthorn, Hippophae rhamnoides, which provides an inedible berry for humans, as well as being a really drought-tolerant and cold-hardy nitrogen-fixing plant. So I have about 1,000 seeds that I've purchased, and I'm propagating them as we speak. They're out germinating. So we're now here in the big open areas of the pasture, and you can see there's standing water here. It's kind of a soakage area right here, and so it's already pretty wet, but it does get really dry throughout the summer. We have about 5 months where it doesn't rain, and where this whole area just gets beat down with the sun. So the idea is to provide some of the moderating influences of trees in this system to help give it some relief from the sun in the summertime, as well as providing lots of layers of forage for animals, so that there's more productivity out of this area than just pasture. And that's a pretty common system. We're going to be strip grazing the animals in between the swales. And that's a pretty common pattern if you're familiar with permaculture in general. But you can see here's another flag. So this is theoretically level with that where the culvert was coming out. There's like ice on it because we just had some freezing rain. It's still pretty cold out now. But you can see the grass is growing. Grass is still green despite the cold temperatures. You can see the contour here running that way. Does a little bit of jiggling over there. Right, and I'll walk over here just to show you guys an interesting thing that happened. This is a really old pine tree, and when the soil gets really wet and we have really high winds, we oftentimes have blowdowns of trees, and this tree just blew down about 2 months ago. We used to call it the meeting tree, because in ancient times there'd be very large trees in open areas and people would gather there. There'd be known places for people to gather. So this is just really interesting. Huge tree that fallen down, massive. This is probably about 20 feet tall. It's really big, and it's really interesting. Look at the roots and whatnot, and you can see this is standing water. The water table is really high right now because all the snow that we had about almost 2 feet of snow, and that all melted, and then it rained a whole bunch. So the water table right now is really high, and the ground is really saturated, and the hope is that we can extend that kind of soil saturation with this swale over a much longer time frame, because as this soil dries out, the creek will still be running, so we can just keep bringing water out here to help deeply irrigate the trees. So we can just continue walking along the contours. Here's another contour line, some more here. And you can see there is some reforestation going on. There's these pine trees, and those will more or less stay in this system. I'm not planning on taking them out unless they get in the way of the swale. Like this guy. This poor guy is probably going to have to get taken out. And you can see the tree fell, and it's right in the where the swale's going to go. So we're going to need to, buck that log up and take it to the sawmill. I'm planning generally to use this vegetation from the limbs of the tree. We've already started limbing it, you can see, to mulch the swale. Give it a nice thick, rough mulch to help retain even more soil moisture, so that we can start doing some planting on it. So we're continuing along, and as I said, this area that we call the main pasture is about 10 acres. I think it's 10.2 acres, and it's not like a square piece of property. It's got different borders a county road. It borders a couple of 5-acre parcels. So yeah, we're walking now through where there's some older reforestation going on. Some interesting, more diversity coming in. That's the type of ground holly right there. It's growing up. And there's a lot of mullein right here. Mullein a good pioneering plant. So yeah, continuing to walk through. Here we have some areas where biomass from thinning projects has been deposited and has just been slowly decomposing over time. Yeah, some more branches and whatnot over there. We move along. We have some more interesting things, like this right here is a choke cherry, which is one of the early succession trees that often comes in where there's enough moisture in the right climate. So you can see here, this is the very last contour marker that we put in, and it butts up right against this road, which is an old Windward lane, that's what we call it. And our property boundary is a little bit past that tree right there, and the pasture extends way over there beyond this rise. So this little guy right here is level with the culvert that's way over there. It's probably about 1,000 feet worth of swale. So we'll be able to back up quite a lot of water in this system and help rehydrate the watershed, and use that water to grow trees and crops for animals, as well as to passively irrigate the pasture. all of the perennial plants that we'll be putting in for the animals to eat. So that's where we're at now. Just to give a date on this, it is February 25th today. So it's still pretty early in the year. Winter's still with us. It's still freezing. There's still some snow on the ground in various areas, but we can still get going on these excavation projects. So yeah, I'll make some more videos as this permaculture, perennial pasture, tree, food forest system gets more established. And if you guys are interested, we're going to be teaching a course April 4th through the 6th here about establishing productive food forests in a variety of different areas using the natural processes of succession and the natural tendencies of different plants to help establish systems in a harmonious and ecological way. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys at the event.